for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. You know, in our bullet points this morning, I want to address something that is rather disturbing. You know, the FBI director testified yesterday in reference to the IRS investigation, which some senators are claiming is resolved. And yet my concern, of course, is that if it's resolved, when Jason Chaffetz, House member yesterday, asked the Robert Mueller, who is the director of the FBI and has been for the past 12 years, I might add, he asked him, when did the investigation start? He said, it has just begun. And yet these congressional scumbags are trying to tell us that the investigation is over and that the entire matter has been resolved. I beg to differ, because we know, based on the investigatory practices of this administration right now, they've been at Benghazi for 10 months and we still don't know what happened. They've been at Fast and Furious for a couple of years and we still don't know what happened. So how do they resolve the IRS debacle in a matter of days? I mean, I get it that the Democrats and the liberal progressives would like to end this like an episode of CSI within a 1-hour window. But that's not how the real world works. So, number one, the FBI director very clearly stated that this is not over. So don't let anyone in the mainstream mass media propaganda division or in the Ministry of Propaganda fool you into thinking it is. Secondly, more than 1,000 IRS employees have just been proven that they have misused government charge cards and wrote 325 bad checks. Fourthly, what I find the most disturbing about this was that Robert Mueller, who's been in this position for 12 years now, this is a guy who can tell you what you had for breakfast. This is a guy that can tell you who you called, when you called them, how long you were on the phone with them for. This is a guy that could tell you how many emails you got in the last 6 months. But he can't name the lead investigator responsible for the IRS debacle. I find that disturbing. He's been in this office for 12 years, and he couldn't answer a single question. He looks like hell, and he ought to, because he's under fire for all kinds of tyrannical and treasonous activity. Just want to let you hear this comment directly from this guy.
Yeah, what can you tell us? I mean, you started a month ago. What can you tell us about this? Have you found have you found the now infamous 2 rogue agents? Have you discovered who those people are?
Needless to say, because it's under investigation, I can't give out any of the details.
Can you tell me some basics? Can you tell me how many agents, investigators you've assigned to the case?
May be able to do that, but I'd have to get back to you.
Can you tell me who the lead investigator is?
Off the top of my head, no.
This is the most important issue in front of the country the last 6 weeks. You don't know who's heading up the case? Who the lead investigator is?
At this juncture, no, I do not know who the...
Can you get that information to us? We'd like to know. We'd like to know how many people you've assigned to look into this situation.
I have not had a recent briefing on it. I had a briefing on it when we first initiated it, but I have not had a recent briefing as to where we are.
So you don't know who's leading the case?
I do not know who is the lead agent.
Do you know if you've talked to any of the victims? Have you talked to any of the groups who were targeted by their government? Have you met with any of the Tea Party folks since May 14th, 2013?
I don't know what the status of the interviews are by the team that's on it.
Would you expect that that's been done?
Certainly at some point in time, and of course the investigation will be done, but generally at the outset of the investigation you get the documents so that you can have a real...
But don't you normally talk to the victims?
I do not know specifically what is...
In your extensive record and history and investigative work, don't you typically talk to the victim? It's a criminal investigation. Don't you typically talk to the victims pretty soon?
Absolutely, I'm sure will happen.
So did the FBI contact any of these same victims? Were they contacted by the FBI prior to the investigation when these same groups were applying for tax-exempt status? Did the FBI pay some of these individuals a visit?
I do not know.
Pardon?
I do not know.
You don't know?
I do not know.
Some of them testified that they were paid a visit by the FBI. Specifically, Catherine Engelbrecht in Texas said she was visited by the FBI. She was head of True the Vote. Is that true or not?
Do not know.
You do not know. Okay. If the FBI did contact people involved in the IRS scandal, victims groups, prior to the investigation when they were applying for tax-exempt status, why was that the case? Why would you be looking into it? And was there possibly coordination with the IRS in why you targeted them?
You're asking me details about the investigation. I'd be happy to get back.
I'm not asking you details about the investigation. I'm saying why were people targeted before the investigation started? Yeah. Why were they contacted by the FBI? Yeah. People who are now part of Tea Party groups who were targeted by the IRS.
You're asking questions about details of the investigation. I'd be happy to take...
That is not a detail about the investigation. That took place prior to the investigation started.
May I please finish? You're asking detailed questions about the investigation. I'd be happy to get back to you and answer those questions that I can, understanding...
I'm asking basic questions about the investigation, like who's heading it up, and you can't tell me that.
That was fairly disturbing. I mean, here is a guy who can tell you what you had for breakfast. No pun intended. He can tell you what you bought at the store to have for breakfast. He's got access to your credit card data. He knows about your health care. He knows who you call, when you call, who you look at on the internet. But he can't tell you virtually anything about anything else. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And that shows me that this government is so encrusted, so ensconced in treason that it is unsalvageable, ladies and gentlemen. Unsalvageable. It cannot be saved. It cannot. I ask you how you can save this. The other lead story out. U.S. agencies swap data with thousands of firms. Thousands of technology, finance, and manufacturing companies work closely with U.S. national security agencies, providing sensitive information and in return receive benefits that include access to classified intelligence. Really? Microsoft, they tell them about the bugs that are in the software before they release it, and this way the government can exploit those bugs, seemingly under the guise that they can do it when they're trying to obtain proprietary, information on terrorism. But the truth of the matter is, are they doing it to obtain proprietary information on terrorism? Or are they doing that so that they have an access into everybody's computer and it can exploit those holes in security before Microsoft releases a fix? How much time does it take supercomputers to go out there and tag in to literally, hundreds of thousands of Americans that they have on their watch lists to go out there and find out what's in their systems? Not just Americans, but around the world. I don't care about around the world. I only care about here. I got a problem with it. And you should too. We're going to take a break. It's not just Microsoft, folks. This is so widespread. I mean, it's thousands of companies. McAfee. I'll tell you what. AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, CenturyLink. Amazing. We'll be back in just a minute.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
The Government Accountability Institute has conducted an analysis of how much time this president has spent in economic meetings of any kind. For instance, how much time has he spent golfing compared to economic meetings?
Between golf and vacation, he's at 976 hours.
That's only more than double the time of what he spent on the economy.
But he won't rest.
Until people have jobs and this economy is rolling again.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Weekdays from 2 to 5, it's Glenn Beck on the Ozarks' Best News Talk 107.1.
All right, we're returning. We're going to bring on Doreen. You know, she joins us every Friday morning. Doreen Hannes, she is the creator and author of TruthFarmer.com. She's also one of the main proponents and authors for the PRCnews.org. PRC News. That's Property Rights Coalition News.org. You know, this stuff that they've got going on here, Dor, with this revelation this morning about the NSA talking and working with thousands of companies, and they're sharing information while simultaneously they're getting information from the government in that is proprietary to national security, while simultaneously getting information from the government on us.
Right.
You know, this is so far outside the scope of constitutionality that this is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what fascism is. This is public and private partnering for the demise of the citizenry.
Absolutely. It's a complete destruction of our rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution. I mean, we have no Fourth Amendment. We have no First Amendment. The Supreme Court banned protests or any kind of gathering in front of the court building just today. I think it was yesterday, actually. I'm sorry. You know, so, I mean, it's just a piecemeal destruction of our nation's foundations and an absolute destruction of personal privacy and personal liberty, Mike. We've got It's insane. We've got so many scandals going on right now that a person can't keep up with them.
No. I mean, Arne Duncan from the education secretary comes out today and says preschool is better than grandma. Kid you not. I that is no lie.
Well,
by the way, and Obama came out and said in the fall, or I'm sorry, this month, where the heck was that? Hang on a second, I'll get it right back. He is going to release, behind closed doors, Obama tells donors he'll unveil climate measures in July. Now, this is the same climate change. We haven't even. Did you hear, by the way, about the carbon tax thing he added? Went from $23 to $38. And this affects.
No, I did not hear about that.
Yeah, it's a climate tax, and it affects everything from microwave ovens. It's a carbon tax.
Right.
And it's a penalty that they apply for the use of carbon, and it affects everything from microwave ovens to the damn pipeline. I mean, people, we're not walking even downhill now. We've reached the edge of the cliff. The bottom is so far below us that there are clouds 1,000 feet down, and we don't even know where the bottom is, and we have just leapt off.
Yep, we are off.
In fact, we leapt off in November. And it's taken us until now to recognize that we are falling at terminal velocity.
Well, I was just reading an article this morning on National Review about the projected deficit spending for the next 30 years in excess of $106 trillion.
Yeah.
That's the deficit spending, not the debt.
And it's actually a range. They said it's somewhere between 78 and 130 trillion. So they're calling it an average mean of 106 trillion. I mean, as if that number matters anyway. These numbers are so astronomical that most people can't even get their head around them. You know, I remember when I was a kid, they used to talk about spending in the billions. And the word trillion hadn't even entered into the general vernacular because it was so far outside first of all, it was so far away that government wasn't even considering it. I mean, even our proposed debt in the future wasn't measured in the trillions.
And now we're at what? Just about $17 trillion?
We're at
as far as our debt?
Well, we're at $17 trillion, and we're at $17 trillion, which is only the understandable, the knowledgeable debt, right? I mean, that's what we know about. Right. That is, hold on a second, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I'm going to give you U.S. debt
US
clock.
Debt clock.
But, you know, the debt clock tells us
the unfunded liabilities.
The unfunded liabilities
there,
aspect of it, right? And when you have that, you know, now we're talking about some real money. Mm-hmm. So it's $16.865 trillion as we speak right now. The debt per person, not taxpayer, per person is $53,366. That means that if you are a family of 4, you owe over $212,000.
Right.
The debt per taxpayer, so if you've paid taxes, you owe $148,000.
Hey, we're all independently wealthy. What do we care, right?
Which, by the way, is interesting because it shows you that only 1 in 3 are paying taxes.
Right. Well, you know what else is very interesting is the other day I saw, I'm kind of reflexing off of this ignoramus from the FBI who's investigating the IRS, quote unquote, and doesn't know who the lead investigator is and all of that fun stuff. Earlier this week, there was a YouTube video of the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve who had no idea where $9 trillion went. And the congressman kept on repeating his question. He's like, so you don't have any idea where $9 trillion disappeared to? That's $30,000 for every man, woman, and child in America, and you don't know? She said, no, I don't. That's not within my purview. They haven't given me the authority to look into that, basically, is what she was saying. You know, so I've decided that from now on, when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I'm going to say I'm going to take the higher pay grade answer for that and say, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's my driver's license? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's above my pay grade. I really can't tell you because, you know, they insisted that I give them proprietary personal documents, which is against state law, so I just didn't go get another one.
Right. So, you know, I don't know. Where is it? You tell me. Just ask the NSA. They might know.
They probably have it.
You know, I mean, we're dealing with stuff that's so beyond the pale that there really isn't any salvation for this system. I mean, why would we want to save fascism masquerading as, you know, free market capitalism anyway?
Right.
Because it's a farce, Mike.
It truly is. You know, and I'll tell you something else. For those of you who live here and think, oh, this state's so great, you know, it's those other states that are in trouble. It's California, it's New Jersey, it's you know, Florida. Those states are in real trouble fiscally. Let me tell you something. You're laboring under a delusion. If you go to usdebtclock.org, up in the upper left-hand side, there's a link there for state debt. Well, let me tell you, here's the state debt per citizen in California. It's $10,783. That's on top of the 50-whatever thousand you owe the federal side, right? So you think, well, you know, man, that state of California, they're in big trouble. Everybody there owes $10,783. Well, let me wake you up in Missouri. You owe $7,614.
Right.
So, you know, here's the deal. Your legislators who just had a $300 million surplus and spent $100 million of it rebuilding some hospital up there and $20 million on parks and recreation, have stolen $300 million from the 6 million people that live here. Now, for the record, folks, there's 6 million people in the state of misery, right? And out of that 6 million, only about half of them pay taxes. So if you take that, that's 3 million people, and you take the $300 million that they had, that's $100 per person, isn't it? No, it's $3,000 per person.
Right.
That would have been your refund. And instead, it went to build a new hospital or refurbish a hospital, and $20 million of it to Parks and Recreation. So you just kicked in like, what, $15, $20?
Right.
No, more than that. So here's my point.
It's a lot of hidden taxation is what it is.
Here's my point. Who the hell is the Assembly in the state of Missouri to take a $300 million surplus and give it away instead of giving it back?
Well, I believe that the way it works to some extent is includes the governor's office, Mike. So it becomes a huge battle. Within the state of Missouri, there's a huge battle between the legislature and the governor, and people like to think it's all based on party politics, and it is based a lot on party politics, but not entirely.
Well, the real problem is that everybody thinks their legislator is good, but everybody else's legislator is no good.
Right, but that is not true.
Hell no.
What we have, unfortunately, within the state of Missouri, and this may play into it, I'm not saying I know that it does, is that the state of Missouri's actual budget last year, it was 1/3 federal funding. 1/3
right.
of our entire budget is federal dollars. Those federal dollars are tied to programs via cooperative agreements that require matching funding from the state. So it's like, okay, we'll give you $200 and you have to put in $50.
Right.
And
by the way, let me tell you, here's the rules list that goes with that, and it's about 1,000 pages long.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Okay.
By the way, those of you in Arkanistan who think you're getting away scot-free, you owe $4,145. You've got 3 million people in the state of Arkanistan, and your food stamp recipients are 510,000 of that. That's 1/6 of your population is on food stamps, Arkansas. 95,000 of you are unemployed out of 3 million that live there. Missouri, you fare no better. You have 6 million people and 930,000 on food stamps. 1/6. And 198,000 unemployed.
Yep. And those are just on the rolls, or is that actual unemployment, or
that's on the rolls unemployment. That's not real true unemployment.
Okay.
Real true unemployment is the hidden unemployment that they don't tell you about, because those are the people who have completely fallen off the radar screen, and so they don't count them. That's why they tell you unemployment is 7.6% or whatever it is, but the truth is it's actually 20%.
So, in other words, we reflect back to we're operating under a delusion. And
yeah.
That's, unfortunately, that is the fact that we're being asked to engage in participatory theater where we get to sit and be the meal that is cooked.
Well, here's how ridiculous this is. The assets per person on a global scale for the United States now, I shouldn't say a global scale, on a domestic U.S. scale, the assets per person average 313,000. The liability per taxpayer is $1,093,000, 1.1 million. So here's the problem. We are already bankrupt. If you went to a judge and you said, I have assets of 313,000 and liabilities of 1.1 million, and I want to borrow more money, the banker would say to you, I'm sorry, but we have nothing further to discuss. Please take your accounts elsewhere. You're a liability to us.
Right.
We're going to take a break, folks. I'm so disgusted. I'm so disheartened by what's going on our federal side. And, folks, we are in free fall right now. Those of you who are not aware of the rapid pace of the deterioration into tyranny that we are seeing, if you are not getting active, if you are not participating in the restoration of our republic, you have now become the enemy. Wake up or prepare to defend yourselves, folks. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Our special guest this morning, Doreen Hannes. We'll be right back.
Radio. I'm Chris Foster. The former federal contractor who spilled secrets about government surveillance program is not welcome in England.
The British government issuing an alert to airlines worldwide saying Edward Snowden should not be allowed to board any flight headed for the UK. The note has been leaked after it was spotted at an airport in Thailand. It's not thought Snowden had any plans to travel to the UK. It's thought he's in Hong Kong, and he says he wants to stay there to fight whatever charges he may eventually face.
Fox News Radio's Simon Owen in London. Supreme Court decisions on gay marriage are expected sometime this month, and Americans are split pretty evenly on the issue.
A slim 52% majority says, yes, gay marriage is a right guaranteed by the Constitution. 45% of voters disagree with that.
Fox polling director Dana Blanton. More expensive food and gas drive wholesale prices up 0.5% last month. Fox News, we report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything light commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 1071 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, a clear sky, sunshine for the day today. The high temperature 84 degrees. It'll be mainly clear tonight, low 62. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow, high 88. Partly cloudy tomorrow night, low 68. Variably cloudy with thunderstorms Sunday, high 84. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Okay, folks, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us through that capitalistic minute. Want to just really quick remind you of the upcoming concealed carry class that's being held by Black Ops School of Combat. That'll be on the 29th of June, and it runs at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's $75 per person. It's here in West Plains. They have a range on site. So after you do your 4 hours or your hours of classroom time, whatever that may be, you get out to the range and immediately you go shoot. You have to shoot both a semi-auto and a revolver according to state law. And if you don't have one or the other or even both, they can help you out with a firearm. You just have to give them a call in advance and let them know that. They do. This is a class that runs all day Saturday. It's June 29th. And they do offer to break this into 2 evenings. So if you don't have the ability to spend an entire day at it, or a whole Saturday, or even a Saturday at all, you can give Greg McLaughlin, the owner there, a call at 255-1612. That's 417-255-1612. And you can arrange for like a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or a Tuesday and a Thursday, or whatever days you guys work out. And he will make arrangements to have to break the class into 2 parts. So it makes it easy for you to do it. Also, he's got a program out there that if you bring 5 other people with you, your class is free. So make sure that you work with him to make that happen. You can get to his website at blackopsschoolofcombat.com. That's blackopsschoolofcombat.com. And his phone number, again, is area code 417-255-1612. That's 417-255-1612. Make sure that you see our friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery. She's got the best darn bakery you're going to find in 100 miles, and you can get a hold of her at 255-2253. She does do special orders, by the way, and so if you've got a party coming up or something like that, perfect opportunity for you to really thrill your guests. You can find her at number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square in West Plains, and make sure you see our friends over at the Battery Station at 257-7799. That's 257-7799. Battery Station is on Washington Avenue in West Plains. And Kevin, the owner over there, has a very, very good solution for you if you have been taking antidepressants or anything along those lines. It helps purge that out of your system. And you've heard me say it before, if you are taking antidepressants, that is a terrible thing for you to be on. The vast majority of America is on it, and the vast majority of America doesn't need it. So I get it, the news is bad, but don't let that be a reason to take the apathy pill. So get a hold of Kevin over at 257-7799 and ask him about that. Also, if you are interested in our co-op, there are taking orders now. You can go down to the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue and fill out the form to get to participate in our co-op there. You can buy bulk food at wholesale rates. You can buy 50-pound bags of rice and sugar and beans and grain and flour and things like that. And you get it at wholesale pricing, people. I'm talking about far lower than you. I had one listener who went down there and saved 50% on his food bill. So if you're into the prepping and the planning, or even if you haven't started, this is a perfect way to start, very, very inexpensively. So get down there. Oatmeal is so cheap, you'll be stunned at what it costs for a 50-pound bag of oatmeal. Okay. Anyway, here's the problem as I see it. We are literally to the point where at this stage in the game, the federal government is so far out of control, and frankly, so are our state governments, that if we don't take some kind of immediate remedial action to preserve this republic, we may as well just capitulate and hold our wrists out, waiting for the chains. I mean, really, it's gotten to the point where I don't know how else we go about trying to restore this thing, because I can't see it. I can't see a political solution here.
Well, I have the same problem, Mike. I can't see a political solution either. And, that's how come I'm so into the prepping and believe that people need to work to develop among themselves within their general area to help to provide for each other. Because the basis of any economy and the basis of any civility is having enough goods, enough actually needed goods to keep the peace. When you run into scant resources, when you're out of food, and when you're out of clothing, when you're out of water, that's when people become barbaric. And right. And
it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. I mean, your neighbor will kill you inside of a week for a can of peas that's in your cupboard because his kids haven't eaten.
Right.
So we're talking a week, people.
Well, all we have to do actually is go back to 2001 and look at Argentina and what happened when the IMF pulled their stability from underneath them by demanding payment in full because Argentina wouldn't implement the austerity measures that the IMF wanted them to. They let them riot and loot and pillage for 2 weeks. They had hyperinflation. In the morning, a loaf of bread, say, cost $1.80. In the afternoon, it cost $18. That's how crazy the hyperinflation went in Argentina. And they just, it was mayhem.
Is that insane or what? Mayhem. By the way, this isn't the only place this happened. In Zimbabwe, they first of all, the inflation was so severe that they just started lopping zeros off the end of the bills. The number of zeros was so great on the bill that it extended past the end of the bill, so they just cut off a bunch of zeros and re-monetized it. The second issue was that the prices were changing so fast that from the time you walked into the store to the time you left, they were changing prices literally in the store at that moment.
Right.
And the only way they got it to stop, by the way, the International Monetary Fund went to the company in Germany who prints the paper for what most money is printed on, and they said to them, if you continue to sell paper to this country, we're going to actually boycott you, and all the countries are going to stop buying paper from you. I mean, you got to be kidding me! It's insane.
Well, it is insane, and it's a huge part of the problem with the fiat currency, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the $9 trillion that the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve couldn't speak on. You know, we have national debt. The deficit spending, actually the lending of the quote-unquote money to the U.S. federal government comes with an interest rate attached to it. So they quote-unquote print money any longer. Most of it is simply numbers on a computer screen and get interest for it. It's not actual currency. It doesn't actually represent anything except for a theft of your labor because we have this inflationary cycle. I mean, there are some coin phrases. You know, the fiat script is basically a taxed inflation, right as it sits. You know, the way that I reference it, my nutshell for it is that we trade real labor for fake money to pay fraudulent taxes on stuff we don't own because it's all been collateralized.
Right.
It has all been collateralized.
Unfortunately, by the way, with a lot of our national parks,
yes,
it's been collateralized with our national parks, which ought to tell us something about this new Blue Ways.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, what's interesting is that although in the documentation it does not specifically state it, the National Park System is the very first entity listed in those who will manage the Blue Way.
Right.
You know, and that's within the nomination document. So people can, you know, I encourage everybody to get that nomination document off of the prcnews.org website and go through it. It's only about 63, 65 pages, and there's a ton of information, and that's what these three agencies, the triumvirate of the Department of Interior, the Department of Army, and the Department of Agriculture, okayed.
Right.
To designate this a Blue Way. These are their plans, folks.
Is that unbelievable? And, you know, they put it in writing. And, you know, here's the problem. I'm willing to bet that 99.9% of people, even who are against this Blue Way, have never read that document. So
I bet not.
They're willing to fight against it, but they don't even know what they're fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, for the record, here we go again. The next thing I want to talk about with Doreen because we're almost at the last quarter hour. In our next segment, we're going to update you not only on what happened yesterday in Howell County, but for those of you who are in the Oregon County area or in the surrounding area immediately around it, we want to make sure that you're coming to that meeting this morning at 10:30 in the Alton Courthouse, right on the square in Alton, for Oregon County's commissioner meeting. The meeting that we had yesterday in Howell County went very, very well. I tell you what, those commissioners listened and patiently and were very gracious about hearing out what we had to say about the Blue Way. Our goal was to inform them and bring them up to speed and educate them about it. And,
right.
You know, they were very, very gracious about it. And all of them came up afterwards and said, thank you for sharing this information with us. You know, we've only just heard about it. We're getting a lot of calls about it. We didn't really know how to answer some of them. And I tell you, that, you know, that's exactly what the purpose of this whole thing was. But now we have three new allies on our side who are in a position of government. So, and these are the county commissioners. So, folks, it's very, and I'm going to tell you something. There were so many people there yesterday that they couldn't hold them all in the room. They didn't have enough room in the meeting room to get everybody in. They were lining the walls. This room was so packed. There had to be probably close to, I don't know, I didn't get a final count, and that was what I was paying attention to. But there were so many people there that I think they were pretty close to 100. And the commissioners were like, wow, this is the biggest crowd we have ever had for anything. So let's make sure that we do that again today in Oregon at the Alton Courthouse at 10:30 this morning. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. Mark Stein, James Lilacs, the regular Thursday gang. Only the hosts are different. My vacation guest hosts, Guy P. Benson, Mary Catherine Ham, continue to hold forth on all the news of the day, but they do so with calmness, the world Stein, and none other than Lilacs. Do not miss a minute of the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
At Missouri State University West Plains, students are finding new beginnings and endless possibilities.
Hi, I'm Jared Foley, and I'm a graduate of Missouri State West Plains. The West Plains campus was a great choice for me because it was close to home, and I was able to use my A+ scholarship to cover all my tuition costs.
Call Missouri State West Plains today to find out how we can help you achieve your educational goals. Registration is going on now, 255-7255, or check us out on the web, wp.missouristate.edu.
I once lassoed a shooting star that dragged me into a U.S. cellular store where I saved $100 on a 4G LTE Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1. Yeah, right. $100 savings on the newest Galaxy Note tablet? Crazy talk.
Get great deals on all our Galaxy devices like $100 off the 4G LTE Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 tablet. U.S. Cellular. Hello better. Certain restrictions apply. Applicable data plan required. New 2-year agreement and $35 device activation fee may apply. See store for details.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
Okay, so Doreen, you're going to be there this morning in Alton, right?
No, I can't wiggle my nose and get there. It's
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought okay.
It's a little over 2 hours from me.
Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going to be there or not. I will be, and so I am anxious to meet some of our friends out there, and I've been told that that somebody put up on Facebook, which is kind of interesting, that someone there was told that she wouldn't want to stay for the Blue Ways portion of the meeting, and she said, "I'm staying," and the person repeated, "You don't want to stay." She had said that he told her that about 15 times.
Wow.
Apparently, it is supposed to be a rather hostile environment this morning. Hope someone has a tape recorder to bring. I don't know what that's about, but I mean, our goal is just to educate these commissioners about this, answer any questions they have about it, and then for us to provide them with this resolution that they can review and study before the meeting on Tuesday with all 7 counties at the SCOCOG meeting. So
right.
I don't know how it could be hostile. I mean, it's an educational environment.
Well, I don't know how education can be hostile. This is just basically information that they have not been given by the people who are promoting the Blue Way. And that was the interesting thing about a conversation that I had yesterday with the presiding commissioner from Wright County. He received information. He sent out an email request for information from one of the stakeholders, which I believe was the Missouri Department of Conservation, and they sent him a bunch of promotional material. It just basically says, this isn't going to do anything for regulation, and he's like, okay, so the first question here is, why do we need the designation if it's not going to do anything?
Right. If it serves no point, why are we doing it?
If nothing's going to happen, then why do we need the designation, and why are we going through these, gymnastic efforts to achieve a designation if there's nothing that will be changed by it?
Exactly.
So he asked me several questions, and actually he will be there on Tuesday when we give our presentation to SCOCOG, and he will also bring in, if he can, he's told me he was going to invite representatives from McCaskill Blunt's office as well as Jason Smith's office. So we should be able to have those who are duly elected officials actually cognizant of the strategic objectives of the stakeholders, none of whom are inholders within this White River watershed. What I mean by that is they always apply this term stakeholder to everything.
Right.
And
how many Nature Conservancy people live here in this area?
Well, probably a few, but I don't know how many. The question that really needs to be answered is how many Nature Conservancy members actually own land within the watershed.
Right. There you go.
It's not really just a matter of how many of them have residence. It's how many of them own land and how many of them make a living.
Well, there's 3 million of us here. I mean, what could possibly be the percentage of the stakeholders who actually live here? 0.00001%? I mean, how is it that kind of a minority gets to make a decision that takes over 18 million acres of land that they have absolutely no authority over?
No vested interest.
Land.
And right, exactly. When this is what your listeners need to do. They need to go to the prcnews.org website, scroll down, and look at the strategic objectives from the nomination PDF and copy those strategic objectives and familiarize themselves with it, because that, my friends, is the management plan.
Right.
Those are the things they want to accomplish. And there are some somewhat innocuous things within there, and there are some extremely detrimental things. That 180-foot, it's a minimum, 180-foot vegetative buffer from all surface water.
Surface water. That means
right.
Ponds. That means any kind of creek, stream, river. That, by the way, means dry creek beds, folks.
Actually, no. I went and I looked up. This is according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's any seep, any marsh, any pond, stream, creek, river, or lake. It does not, and it specifically says within the definition there, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, that it does not include wet weather creeks like, ravines that we have around here. So, but
I
nonetheless.
stand corrected. Thank you.
No, well, I just want to make sure that we have our facts right so
Absolutely.
that people are capable of making decisions based upon the facts and not having anything that's a supposition thrown up in our faces later. Okay? We have to be sure that our facts are straight, because the facts themselves are horrible enough. We don't have room to make any errors.
We don't need to make it, and we don't need to make anything up, because this is worse than fiction.
Right, and also stopping encroachment, human encroachment on floodplains. Now, a yearly floodplain, a 5-year floodplain, a 50-year floodplain, a 100-year floodplain, a 500-year floodplain, no constraints. Just stop human encroachment on floodplains.
Right, and right. So you could call the entire basin a 500-year or 1,000-year floodplain.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, at that stage in the game, what that's telling you is that depending upon how they define floodplain, and that's open to interpretation and ultimately some kind of a court battle if you disagree, now you're stuck back in this scenario where you've got to say, well, I'm not in a 500-year floodplain or a 1,000-year floodplain. Let me tell you something, folks. There's not a whole lot of places that aren't in a 500-year floodplain or a 1,000-year floodplain. I mean, so, and if we go back to a 3,000 or 4,000-year floodplain, well, the whole earth was covered and there was one boat floating around.
Right. So these strategic objectives here are the important thing, and in my way of looking at it, it's what they outlined. It's what the quote-unquote stakeholders put forward to get this designation. These are their plans. They're written down, and while there's a whole lot that's subject to interpretation, if there's any interpretation to be made, it's going to require a regulation. So there are, Mike, I went through and I added up the acreage that they state in here. Not, specifically like categorically added up the acreage,
right.
But the total acreage that they want to acquire in some way, shape, or form is 548,500 acres.
So well over 500,000.
Right. That's currently in private hands.
Right. By the way, I got a response. I sent out an email packet to all of the PRC directors. And one of them, who's out there in Cape Girardeau, sent me an email back, I don't think he realized he was copying me back, but his response was, "This is way the hell out there and gone west of us." And I sent him an email. I know it's bad, but it's not our problem. So I sent him an email back. I said, today it's not your problem, but this allows them to absorb buffer zones around the actual protected area to then protect the protected area.
Right.
So today it's our problem. Tomorrow it's yours. And I put yours in bold capital letters, and I hit the send button. I haven't heard back.
Attaboy.
But, I mean, come on, So what are you going to try to? Isn't that the old adage that first they came for the first they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't say anything.
Right.
Right. I mean, finally they came for me, and there was nobody left to say anything. I mean,
nobody was there to protect me, for heaven's sakes.
Exactly.
Well, there's also one of these Blue Way designations going on in Minnesota, and the interesting thing in their nomination PDF is that they have all of the major rivers that dump into the Mississippi highlighted in blue, and it takes up the entire Midwest and Northern Plains states and over through the Northern Great Lakes. And the scuttlebutt is that there are 15 of these Blue Way designations that the Department of Interior wants to achieve.
Okay, hang on a second, because I read an article yesterday about the one they tried to do up in Yellowstone Park.
Yes.
And the girl from the DOI there, who was quoted in that in that article, said that they had plans to do 5 of these a year for a total of 25.
Okay.
25.
Well, that might very well end up being the entire nation, Mike.
Well, what it is it's all the areas that they want to eject the population out under, so that they can implement the ultimate plan of having isolated communities or population centers, and the vast majority of the nation to be left as pristine wilderness.
Right.
The problem is that we're here.
Plan.
Right. So this is the reverse of you remember the Great Land Rush we all learned about when we were kids in school, and you saw the guys, they were all lined up there on the wagons, and they had horses, and they shot the gun, and everybody goes off, and you could claim your 160 acres. This is now we're rolling that back. It's like they put the movie in reverse. And we're the new American Indian, right?
Yes,
so
we are.
Here's what's happening, folks. This is genocide being now done not to the American Indian, but to the American people who were the interlopers on the Indians. But now our own government is destined and determined to make us go the way of the American Indian.
Right. Well, I don't know if I'd couch this as genocide, but I would couch it as regulation aside. It's definitely going to stop us from being able to use our land in any meaningful, productive fashion.
Yeah, but when you talk about Agenda 21 goals, that has to include genocide, because there's only their sustainable number is 1.5 to 2 billion, and there's 7.5 billion of us on the planet. So what happens to the 5 billion of us who aren't part of the plan?
Right. Well, I know the plan, but I'll tell you what, I'm against the plan. So.
Well, considering I'm probably one of the 5 billion, I am too.
I think those who are for population control should lead by example.
That is a great line.
Well, Mike, I hear the music. I just want to say real quickly that there are 8 counties that have passed resolutions against this in Arkansas, and 1 in Missouri so far. So we have to get all the rest of them online.
Get on the phone to your counties, folks. Thanks, Doreen.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. Take care.
Have a great day.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.